Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
I'm Michael Burke, and this is Money Talks. Hi, welcome to Money Talks, the Journal Times online business show. I'm the host, Michael Burke, business reporter for the Journal Times, and with me today, this is going to be an interesting show, I think, because we're actually at Waxdale, the huge manufacturing facility for SC Johnson. And thanks for being with me. Jam Stewart is our guest today. Jam, it's jam like that you would spread on a piece of bread.
Correct.
Explain that name.
Sure. So my parents are of Indian descent, and it's an Indian name. My full name is Jamonie, Jamonie. Mm-hmm. They've always shortened it to Jam.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, very good. We're here to talk about the wind turbines that were commissioned actually almost exactly 2 months ago, because today is February 19th,
yes.
And they were commissioned almost. So the wind turbines are your electricity making apparatus at Waxdale for Waxdale, and the energy basically goes to run Waxdale, right, or help run Waxdale?
Yeah, that's correct. It contributes 15% of our electricity, but with the addition of the turbines, we're now able, with the cogeneration units that we already had in place since the early 2000s, to generate our full electrical base load here at Waxdale.
You better explain cogeneration. What do you mean by that?
So we had, in early 2000s, we installed 2 cogeneration units. So one of the units basically creates steam and electric for the facility from natural gas. And then there's a second one where we piped methane from that landfill just right over here next to Waxdale, and we're using that as well to create energy for the facility. So those 2 cogeneration turbines create 85% of our electrical energy, and then the 15% from the turbines gives us that 100%.
Of course, 15% on average, because the wind
Correct.
turbine it changes day to day.
That's
we
correct.
happen to be here on a day when it's pretty darn windy, and those things are just really cranking out electricity, right?
Today's wind speeds are 26 miles an hour, and we are at that top end of our capacity. We're generating right now about 3,000 kilowatts of energy, which, if you're looking for a comparison, that's about enough to power 2,300 homes.
Yeah, interesting. So, of course, it's not correct to say you're using no energy to run this place, because you are buying natural gas, but at least you're supplying all your own electricity through sources that don't pollute by and large.
Right. So we need 2 kinds of energy to run Waxdale. One is electrical energy. That's the biggest use. And then we also need heat energy. So the cogeneration unit that I talked about that's producing steam, we use that for heat as well. But on average, with the systems that we have in place, we'll be able to generate 100% of the electrical energy that we need.
Wow. Now, the turbines, let's give some scale to these.
Sure.
Well, let me back up a little bit. The reason you wanted we make that investment as a company was...
Sure. We have a long-standing history and legacy of sustainability efforts, not just here in Racine, but around the world, really. And this is really about us getting off the grid and about being committed to this facility and being innovative and creative and coming up with ways to really push that agenda for us.
And to say that you're creating all the electricity you need for this is really saying something, because we should tell people something about the size of Waxdale. It goes on for blocks and blocks and blocks.
It does. So, it's actually 2.2 million square feet, and it's about 36 football fields. That's how large this facility is, 36 football fields.
Yeah.
So it's a massive, massive facility.
Yeah. So to say that you're supplying all the electricity for that, that's really a statement. originally you were going to, we started reporting on this probably about a year ago with the first proposal, and originally you wanted to put up 5 wind turbines. Those would have been smaller, right?
They would have been. So we originally were citing 3 to 5 sites.
Oh, 3 to 5, okay.
3 to 5 sites, but yes, those would have been a little bit smaller. The 2 turbines that are out there right now are 415 feet tall. Those would have been probably less than 300 feet.
I want to stay with the change for a second, because the reason you didn't build the original 3 to 5 and you went with 2, there was some resistance, you would call it, from nearby homeowners who thought that these things were going to be noisy. But I have to say, again, it's these things are spinning like crazy today.
Yeah.
I checked in at your guard shack. I was no more than, how far would that be, 100 yards from these
You're
things
right
or something
there.
like that?
Yeah.
And I couldn't hear a whisper of sound. So
Yeah.
all of those fears were pretty groundless, as it turns out.
Well, it was interesting. When we went to the Village of Mount Pleasant with the proposal, we had to do a lot of education on turbines and turbine technology and really what it means for a community. And one of the things that we talked a lot about was how quiet these would be. And clearly, you experience that today. I mean, they are very quiet.
And so what's been the reaction? Any reaction from the people who gave you the hard time originally?
The reaction has been overwhelmingly positive since the turbines have been up. As you mentioned, they were commissioned at the end of last year in December. Really overwhelmingly positive comments from the community.
You expect, again, these are day-to-day, they're going to turn faster, slower, sometimes not
Sure.
at all. What are the windiest times of year? I would guess winter, right?
Yeah, it really varies. I mean, the average wind speed in Wisconsin is about 15 miles an hour. So when we're talking about some of the numbers that we talked about earlier as far as our averages, we're basing it on that.
Now, let's try to give some size, some sense of the size of these things.
Sure.
They're 415 feet tall. Now, is that from the top of the blade when it's straight up to the ground?
It is. It's top of the tip to the very bottom of the base.
Okay.
And just to give some scale to what that might be,
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty is about 305 feet tall. So we're 415 feet tall for one of the turbines. And just to give a local example, the research tower on our campus, that's about 166 feet tall, and the lighthouse at the wind point is about 100 feet tall.
Wow, so it's 4
Just to
times
give some
taller.
scale.
4 times taller than the lighthouse.
Yep.
What about the courthouse? Is that one of our taller structures?
Yeah, it is, and that one is about 130 feet. 130 feet. That's the courthouse. So the 415 feet. That's the comparison.
Now, what are the various parts of the turbines made of?
Well, the blades are made of fiberglass, and then the tower itself is made of steel. And of course, it's grounded, so there's no problems during any kind of electrical storm or thunderstorm. But it's steel for the tower, and then the blades are fiberglass.
And where are these various components made?
The turbines really are international. So the system itself, the technology behind it, is from a company called Vensis, which is a company based in Germany. And they're a great company. Their technology is really state of the art right now for wind turbines. And one of the things that they feature is, number one, you notice how quiet they were.
Yeah.
Their turbines are extremely quiet. But they have a technology in their generator that is a gearless magnet technology. So normal turbines have a gearbox technology, which a lot of times if you see turbines, you might notice the very back of them, the housing is rather large because all the gear equipment is in that. This is gearless, and it's all done with permanent magnets. So those pieces came from Vensis. And by
the way, that helps explain why it's so quiet, because there's no gears grinding against other gears.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The blades themselves came from North Dakota, and the tower from Minnesota.
And how do you transport I assume the tower came in pieces, right? It wasn't one 300.
It did. Transporting most of these components and pieces were very, very interesting. As they came in and going from state to state, everyone has different laws and regulations on when you can transport materials like this. Each one of those blades is 135 feet long itself. So imagine that. I mean, one of those blades is taller than the lighthouse.
Wow.
So we have 3 of those coming in. I mean, it's pretty big. And
by the way, this tower is massive. I don't know what the diameter at the bottom is, but these are huge tubes.
These came in 5 pieces.
Okay.
These came in 5 different sections. The tower piece did. So, that obviously helped. But getting everything here was quite an adventure. And a lot of this happened, a lot of the pieces were coming in late fall of 2012, and we had Hurricane Sandy to deal with. So some of our pieces from Germany that came by boat were stuck in Baltimore, in the Baltimore harbor, for a couple of days, a little bit longer than we thought that might be because of the hurricane.
Yeah, it actually went together pretty quickly. It seemed.
It did.
I wanted to be out there actually the day you were putting the propeller, or I'm calling it propeller. That's the wrong term. I'm sure. Blades. I didn't get there in time, and it was all basically put together already. Once
all the parts and pieces got here and the foundation was laid and that piece was done, went together pretty quickly.
Yeah. How's the performance been so far mechanically?
Great.
Because I have seen that once or twice. I've seen one blade turning, or one turbine turning, and the other one was not. And I thought, boy, there must be a problem there that day.
So the first 2 weeks, so we went live at the end of December, and the first 2 weeks of January, Fences was here, actually, helping us, making sure everything's working okay. And so we were doing some testing and some maintenance. So maybe that was one of the reasons you saw that. But also, depending on the wind speeds, we might only have one turbine going and the other one going really, really slowly, or maybe appearing that it's not moving at all.
Do they pivot to catch the most wind?
They do. So the nacelle, which is the very back piece that you see on the turbine, that actually houses all of the weather equipment, a lot of the sensing equipment. And that's exactly, to your point, that's exactly what it does. It'll sense the wind and sense the temperature and sense the wind speeds, and that will actually rotate. So in addition to that rotating to catch the best wind, the blades actually pitch and rotate as well.
Oh, they do?
They do.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. That's really interesting. So they're doing this as necessary.
They absolutely are doing that. And so all of those things are really controlled by the brain, right, which is a computer system that's at the base of the turbine. And that brain, it literally is sensing and feeling, and the turbine reacts accordingly.
And how much of a pivot can each one of these make? Can it go any direction, or is there a limit to the?
It pivots pretty far. So, for example, on the blades themselves, if there's wind speeds over 50 miles an hour, it'll sense it and shut down. And how it does that is the blade literally turns into the wind. So it catches zero wind. So that's an example.
Yeah, interesting, because it could go too fast. Huh?
Correct.
And is that about the wind speed where it would stop?
50.
At 50?
50 miles an hour is where it would stop.
Which, of course, we would seldom get.
Right.
But, that's pretty cool. How much energy have they been on an average day generating so far for you?
So we're expected to generate about 8 million kilowatts of electric for the year. And we're already at about 1.8 million kilowatt hours.
In 2 months. Yeah, so you're ahead of schedule. So
we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
We're exceeding our averages, and we're ahead of schedule.
Now, when you are generating more than you need, of course, you're selling back to the grid,
We're putting
right?
it back on, right.
And so economically, how are they performing for you so far? What is the amount of energy equivalent to in dollar terms? I know the company hasn't put out what the amount of the investment was, and that's, it's a private company, and you have that right. But what kind of payback do you expect on these?
Sure, we can talk about savings, right? And we're looking at saving about $500,000 a year with these. And we're pacing well. Right now we've saved about probably $80,000. So we're pacing to hit that $500,000.
Do you have, of course, SC Johnson makes products all around the world. This is your largest facility, but do you have thoughts now, because these have worked well, to maybe erect one at a smaller plant someplace and do this other places yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mick. So it's interesting that you asked that, and I want to point out too, this is our third renewable energy project here at Waxdale, because we talked about the cogeneration units, but this is our 10th in the last decade across the world. So we're doing things like this across our facilities. In Bay City, for example, right now we're purchasing a lot of wind power.
Where's Bay City?
Bay City, Michigan, where we make a lot of our Ziploc products.
Okay.
We are purchasing a lot of our wind power, but we're looking at, maybe putting in our own wind turbines, and we're looking at projects like that across the board at a lot of our facilities.
What about here? Would it make sense to, do these two generate about the amount that you were planning on in the beginning, or are they generating less? Would it make sense to put in more here just to sell back to the grid, or are there reasons why that wouldn't make sense?
At this point, I think we've got what we need here because we know on average what we need to generate, and this allows us, these two turbines combined with the cogeneration units allow us to do that. So adding a third here wouldn't make a lot of sense for us.
Yeah. What other interesting facts? I mean, you've got charts galore here about these turbines. I'm just looking. Let's see. Fun fact: at 17 rotations per minute, the tips of the blades are spinning at 167 miles per hour.
Right.
That's so funny because you look at them and it just looks like it's going like this. But I guess it's like, a Ferris wheel or something like that.
Right. It's a little deceptive, right? A lot of folks have asked. They look like they're barely moving, but they're moving. They're moving.
That's really cool. The turbines are designed to withstand sustained winds of up to 100 miles an hour.
So the turbines could actually withstand an F2 tornado.
Wow.
Had about 105 mile an hour winds without any damage.
These fun facts are great. I'm just reading them as we go. All wind turbine lights around the United States flash in sync at a prescribed interval.
And I believe that's required by the FAA.
What part flashes? I haven't really noticed anything.
There's a light at the very top. Have you noticed the red light? There's a red light that flashes.
I've seen them at night. Now that we say that,
and that's required by the FAA.
Okay, sure, it would be. But so those are blinking in sync with other turbines around the
Correct.
U.S. I wonder why that would be. SC Johnson's turbines are the largest wind project directly powering a plant in Wisconsin. That's not surprising, I guess. And inside the tower, a ladder and powered lift go all the way to the top for maintenance needs.
They do. When we were finalizing, when actually the hub, when the blades were being put on, there's an elevator. It takes you all the way up there so we can do maintenance. And you could see our engineer up there actually guiding this whole piece. Imagine this huge hub coming at you with 3 blades 135 feet long.
Wow.
Coming in with a crane, and he's in there guiding it. You can actually see we got some cool footage of our engineer in there doing that work, and it was very cool. So yes, you can get up there. There is an elevator.
It does say a ladder too. That would be a long climb given what we said before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jam Stewart, thanks a lot I've been wanting to get SC Johnson on my show for about a year now, and we were able to accomplish that, and I'm so thankful for that. So thanks for your time. Thanks for letting us in here. Thanks to Scott Anderson, our producer. You've been watching Money Talks, the Journal Times online business show. I'm your host, Michael Burke, business reporter for the Journal Times, and please join us again.
Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.